You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
Welcome to a special episode of the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans. We just love talking about the Pack. We are not into all those national sports media headlines that are certainly swirling around quite a bit right now. We're talking about the Pack right now, guys, specifically the draft. Day 1, Day 2, 2025 draft. We got a first-round receiver. We got an offensive tackle. We got another receiver. Oh, my goodness. If you guys are excited about this, spike that like button for us. Check us out on the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Subscribe. We love you. You guys are awesome. Let's get going. We got a short period of time here for Tim and I to jump in and cover what has been, I think, a pretty cool first 2 days of the draft in Green Bay. Hats off to Mark Murphy and the whole crew that has brought the draft to Green Bay. Well done. Just there's a lot to say, man. And before we get going, we obviously need to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Buckets, Brewers, Summerfest tickets. They're coming. You can find them on the web, theticketking.com. Visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support those local Wisconsin businesses, y'all. If you're not in Wisconsin, support your local businesses. Tim, sir, what's going on, man? What do we got? Are you losing it? What's going on?
Shocked. We got to talk about it, but I'm not sure really what to say because I'm pretty shocked about what's going on for the first 2 days of the draft. You know,
absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. There's obviously a large national media headline we could talk about involving a certain QB. We're not going to because this is the Pack Weekly podcast. The Packers have taken a receiver in the first round. It's like a prophecy coming true or something. Like, is Matthew Golden? Is he the guy? Is he going to return us to the golden ages here?
So it's crazy. Like, here we are through 3 rounds, and I like the first round receiver is like kind of like, okay. I'm more shocked about what they did on day 2 than what they did on day 1 now, which is crazy.
Young Williams. So I mean, obviously Belton is. I mean, yeah, the tackle didn't surprise me as much. I'm kind of like, I like that, dig that pick.
Yeah, I mean, as far as when they took him was a little surprising, but whatever. Like I'm not that surprised they went offensive line on Friday. Maybe was expecting that 3rd round instead of 2nd, but whatever.
They know O-line. I'll take it. I don't care.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to. So Matthew Golden, I think as far as how the draft was falling, guys started like it looked pretty good, and then the guys started coming off, and you're like, okay, this guy's in a Packers fit. And we saw, like, for example, Will Johnson. There were a lot of mock drafts that came out from national people who are in the know, who are, you know, trusted people who had Will Johnson actually going to the Packers in the first round.
Heard that
he fell, right? And he fell into the 2nd round, and there's a knee issue there. So it's not surprising. Like, when there's a guy that has an issue off field or an injury, the Packers aren't going to be the team that stops him falling in the draft. Like, they don't take that kind of risk.
Very rarely.
Right. So Will Johnson wasn't there. Shamar Stewart went. Obviously McMillan went early. Ibuka went before them. Derek Harmon went 2 picks before. It was kind of like, okay, they're at 23. Like, it's Golden, or we saw maybe Maxwell Harrison, because again, there were a lot of people. I think Daniel Jeremiah had Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback out of Kentucky. But there were several people that had Harrison as their pick in their mock drafts. And I know mock drafts, you know, take them for what they are, but sometimes they are, you know, inside information. They can be somewhat reliable. So I thought maybe it was going to be Harrison, and obviously it was golden. And the first time in 22 years, 23 years, whatever it was, like pretty surprising, but excited about that pick. We talked about Golden, leading up to the draft, and he's got the speed. He can run routes. He's not just a go deep and, throw a bomb to him kind of receiver. Like, he can do other things. He can win at 3 levels. He's got good hands. He catches the ball with his hands. He doesn't let it get into his body. Hands. Yes. And like, that was the struggle last year, was too many drop passes. Like, they might not be in this situation where they take 2 receivers in the first 3 rounds if their receivers last year could just catch the football.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it was such, we'll get into Golden more, but exciting pick, exciting weapon for them to have in their offense. And then Belton was a guy they brought in for a visit. He's a massive offensive lineman. I didn't expect him to be a 2nd round guy, but like, if you would have told us pre-draft, like they're going to take him in the 3rd round. Okay. Like, makes a lot of sense. I just, maybe it was a little early, but whatever. I don't really even care that much about that. It was early. And I'm not like,
it doesn't bother me at all. I don't think about it at all, to be honest.
Right. And I think there's a lot of like, okay, where does he fit in 2025? I think it's more of like, they have 3 offensive linemen right now. They're going to be free agents at the end of 2025. So this is as much of like 2026 and beyond of a pick than it is 2025.
I think you could say that about the whole draft so far. I mean, at this point, you can say that, 2 of the 4, top 4 receivers from last season don't have to be back now. They don't have to bring them back. They can, right? We'll find out what happens. But yeah, that I feel like they've definitely given themselves some flexibility in that room here, to see, the best ones emerge, and then maybe give yourself flexibility to deal one of them. Certainly could be an option, but I just wanted to make a comment real quick before I forget it. You mentioned insider information, mock drafts and all that. Now, a couple years in a row, Peter Schrager has been pretty on the nose for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a comment in his final mock draft where I believe he took Matthew Golden for the Packers. About Matthew Golden, saying that I don't think a lot of people expect the top wideout on a lot of boards to fall to the Packers. And I started thinking about that. I was like, top wideout on a lot of boards. Now, listen, this is not a knock on Matthew Golden, but I didn't see a lot of media boards calling him the top wideout. In fact, it was pretty well either Hunter or Tet McMillan, depending on how you looked at it. I didn't see a whole lot of Golden getting into that conversation through the media. So that got my attention really quick. It's like, okay, so he's referring to actual boards that he's hearing about in the league. And so what you may have here is who might be the top wideout in this class. The Packers actually may believe that. So I just kind of thought that was very interesting that he made that comment about Matthew Golden. And when we were obviously more excited about last year's receiver class than this year's receiver class. That guy, his explosive ability, and I didn't really think about this until listening to Goot and him talk about their evaluation of Matthew Golden. And he says this about free agents too. They really do believe his best football is in front of him, which is pretty fair to say about almost any rookie, right? You hope that his best football is in front of him. But when you look at his trajectory going from Houston to Texas, to a new offense, a new system, new people, the ability to adapt, and then the production, and then the things that are being said about him by, I read a quote from Sarkisian that was glowing. Yeah. You put all these things together and you're like, gosh, this guy's pretty stinking good, man. Like, this is one of those, maybe you don't let him get by you. And just to call out how much we don't know at this point in the process, however many years ago it was now, it doesn't seem like that many, but there was a point in time where, Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson were taken only a few picks apart. Right. So you just don't know that Matthew Golden very well could live up to that type of caliber receiver. And wouldn't that be exciting? But I'm ecstatic about it. Love the pick.
Yeah, and I think two things, like as far as Golden specifically, like he went from an air raid offense at Houston, which wasn't real NFL type of offense, to a more NFL type of offense. And he has like that growth, and he grew throughout the season. He got better. He played his best football down the stretch throughout the playoffs. I mean, he torched Georgia in the SEC championship game. And you can go back to the playoff game against Arizona State. He made a lot of big plays there too. Like he got better as the year got on in a more NFL translatable offense than what he had been playing previously. And taking Travis Hunter out of it, whether teams view him as a corner, receiver, whatever, like I think there were teams that like some had McMillan as their number one guy, and then other ones maybe had Ibuka, maybe had the Golden. Like it wasn't clear. So I definitely buy that Golden was some team's number one guy. I think he's a really cool kind of like chess piece for LaFleur. Like my concerns are he's 5'11", 190. Maybe he can play at 195, whatever, but he's not going to get much bigger. So the size and can he beat press coverage, but he's a Z receiver who can play outside and he can play inside. You can move him around. You can do all the motion stuff with him. Obviously, he's got, game breaking speed. I don't know if he's got 4.3, 4.29 speed. Maybe he's not playing that quite speed, but he's really fast.
I wouldn't even say that the top end speed is what you should focus on with him. It's the acceleration. Right.
Yes.
That 1.47-10 split is very, very, very impressive. And it does show up on tape.
Yeah. You can see him when cornerbacks are backing off and he can cut it off and, run a little hitch or run a, out pattern, whatever it may be. And he's got a ton of separation. Like that's where
that's the acceleration. Right. And Packers fans are big fans of talking about separation, right? That's why we really got excited about Dontavian Wicks early, as he was showing some separation ability. That's exactly what that is. That acceleration is the best thing to create that separation.
He seems like a 3-level receiver. He's not just a one-trick pony. We've seen those guys in the past, not just with the Packers, but other teams where it's like, okay, they can hit a deep pass, but like when that's taken away, they can't really do anything else.
Yeah.
I think he can do plenty of other things besides that. And I think he's still an ascending receiver. Like he got better at Texas. He got better throughout the year because I think it was more of a pro style offense. It was more of a pro style environment. Like Texas is now a pretty damn good program. They're having success. They're putting guys in the NFL. Sarkisian's, a really good play designer, play caller. He's been an NFL coach as a coordinator. Like they're producing those guys. So, I think the needle's pointing up for Golden and what he can do. And, it's explosiveness, but it's the 3-level ability that they give him. That's just really intriguing. But I think taking Golden and then taking Savion Williams it's a message to your receiver room. Like
big time.
They weren't happy with what the receivers did last year.
No.
And, there's obviously Watson and Dobbs are going into the last year of their contracts. Watson's coming off the injury. Dobbs has the concussions, plus he had that whatever it was last year where he got suspended incident or, what was going on with Dobbs last season. But, got two guys going in the last year of their contracts. You got Wicks, who took a step back, and Reed pretty much took, I guess Reed at times was really good, but it was a consistency thing with him, I think more so, but both struggle with drops. Like this is kind of like, hey, you guys are on notice. Like we're not waiting around for these receivers to like take the next step and progress and see what they can do. Like
that was the year, right? This was kind of that year for the guys to step up and be who they're going to be. And now it feels like the scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker breaks the pool stick and drops, both pieces in front of the two guys. It's like, good luck. There's only so many spots over the next few years. Not everybody's getting another contract. And now you got some more talent injected into that competition from a speed and a size perspective. So, one question I brought up earlier this offseason about specifically about replacing Christian Watson for at least the first 12 games this season, because they have to do that in the offense. His role is too valuable to not directly replace. He's got size and he's got speed, right? Probably the fastest guy on the offense before Golden came into the picture. You know, and you got to replace both of those things. Well, you don't have to necessarily do it in the same player, you know, and they showed that with Bo Melton, you could use his speed a little bit to replace that. It's not necessarily the same. But I think what they were able to do here with Golden and Savion Williams is you're able to have that size and speed threat still out there, even without Christian Watson in the picture. Oh, by the way, when Christian Watson comes back in the picture, you got even more size and speed in it. So it's not like, okay, now we don't need Watson. No. This gets a lot more fun when Watson comes back. And it may be that you don't need one of those guys. My guess is Dobbs and Wicks are considered in the same ballpark, same, you know, similar build, similar roles. One of those guys is probably out pretty quick. You know, you have the ability to trade somebody now. I don't know what that market is like. I'm not even going to venture to guess, but yeah, I think real quick, one of those guys becomes just, you know, expendable. So very, very interesting. It does kind of feel surreal though, because, you know, Packers fans are always rooting for a first round receiver, which you got. And then we're always kind of rooting for the flashy object, right? The guy that's got the size, speed metrics. And Savion Williams is definitely a flashy object. He's definitely that big body dude. He's like 6'5", 220, 225. I don't know if he's got a 40 out there, if he ran one, or what his 40's like, but you put him on film, he's fast. The comparisons are Cordero Patterson. I'm excited. I think really, and then I'll turn it back to you, Tim. You know, we've only got a few more minutes here. I think what this is Goot saying, hey, the offense is on notice. And if you really analyze just objectively what has kept the Packers out of the Super Bowl, going all the way back to Bakhtiari getting hurt in 2020, it's been offensive line or maybe offensive production. You can look at a little bit this last year, the offense fell apart. We talked about it each week. The defense held up their end of the deal for the most part. You know, they weren't perfect, but they held up their end of the deal. And even after the Eagles went on a tear, you saw that even more so. So I think what this is saying, look, we're not going to get got again, right? We're going to build up the line. We're going to build up the receivers. There's going to be competition, and you may be good, but that doesn't mean you're safe, you know? And I think that might be the difference between what Goot's trying to do and what has been in the past, you know, and it is kind of like jarring a little bit, right? Because we're kind of we as fans think about this as like filling a roster, and you can look at that receiver room and go, okay, you got your guys, right? Especially after you take Golden, it's like, all right, we're good, right? You don't need another one. Nah, man, we need another one. We want another dog in that room, you know, causing these guys to earn their paycheck, right? And I think he feels the same way about the O-line group too. You start looking around going, okay, oh, dang, Belton. All right, now where's he going to fit in? And who's going to move where's, you know, like, it's like, all right, it's not necessarily about who's going to slot where. These guys aren't thinking about that right now. They're thinking about putting a lot of good bodies into training camp and seeing what comes out, right? Because what comes out may be unpredictable. You may have packages emerge where, you know, Golden and Reed end up complementing each other, you know, on the field at the same time, or, you know, whatever it may be. You know, you got guys rotating at the O line, going into guard, going out to tackle. There's a whole load of combinations, and I think that what they're trying to do is put as many high quality players in that competition as possible to get the best product out.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I mean, just look at the offensive line last season by the playoff game. Like, they lose Elton Jenkins, and it's Glover, and Telford came in, and then they had Dillard. Failure. You have to have depth, and you have to have guys ready, especially when they're going into a contract year with 3 guys. Like, build that line. The team that was just the Super Bowl champions have had a really good offensive line for years now because they continue to build and add guys to that. Like, you win in the trenches. That's what I always come back to. And like, I can't argue with them taking an offensive lineman in the second round. Like, you could say, well, maybe they should have, it's too early, whatever. Like, they have a track record of identifying these guys and developing them. And I'm fine with that. Like, protect your franchise quarterback, get another massive body on the offensive line. I got no problem with that. Like, it greatly improves their depth for 2025. Like, there's no room for an Andre Dillard. There may be no room for Kadeem Telfer or Travis Glover, and that's fine. Like, they have dudes now, and they have some guys with some. I mean, between adding Belton and Banks, then in free agency, like, massive guys too. Like, they want to be a big physical, wear you down, pound you in a running game offensive line. Cool. Like, I'm all on board with that. Like, they have the guys up front. And going back to the receivers, like, I think about Goody's end of season press conference where he threw out that, like, it's the urgency, like, it's time to ramp up the urgency comment. Like, that really rings true for the receivers, because we saw them kind of take a step back last year, and none of them really like step up and like be the guy or show consistency, and all the drop passes and the struggles of the receiver room. Like, they're not happy with that, and they're not going to sit back and say, you know what, we're just going to wait for these guys to develop and see what they do. Like,
No,
it wasn't good enough. And I'm like, now, you're on the spot. Like, you better compete or you're not going to be here.
Yeah.
It's a bad day for, Bill Melton and McCole Hardman. Like, they signed him and we talked about him and all. Like,
they're at the bottom of the totem pole right now.
They got a lot of work to make the team. Malik Willis. Yeah. And then, like, just in the future, like, I still like Watson. I still think he's different from the other receivers that they have and the guys they drafted, but he's got to come back healthy and show something. And Romeo Dobbs certainly now he's on notice. So the passing game wasn't good enough last year. And I think I keep, like, we talked about that a lot. Like, there was something wrong, and they're working on fixing that. So yeah, it's a step in that direction. And we'll have more time, obviously on Monday we'll go through this. My big concern though is they haven't added a pass rusher, and I don't know how you get better. Obviously they're trusting in the guys they have, and they're trusting in the new defensive line coach, but yeah, that's my big concern from, the first 2 days of the draft is, like, they're not better in getting to the quarterback. So what's going to change next season? But
yeah, well, and I would say that there's still opportunity for that to happen. I'm rooting for Deion Walker, just a monster on the D line, and there's still plenty of them. We've talked about them, and we'll get more into it on Monday based on we'll react to what they do. I know a lot of people are concerned about the cornerback, and lack of taking a cornerback. We talked about this. I think that's entirely predictable in this case, guys. The cornerback class, and you saw it. You saw one of the best ones, at least what we thought, slide down the board. It's just not a real deep class. There's talent there. There's potential there, but there's not a lot of it. So I just didn't see them reaching for guys in this class. And if you analyze the room without the assumption that one of them will be gone, it's a pretty deep room. I think a lot of people are operating on the assumption that Jair Alexander won't be there. And as the draft goes on, I think the likelihood that he will be there increases. But if you start there, got Alexander, you got Hobbs, you got Nixon, you got Valentine, you got, that's a deep room right there. And then hopefully Kalen King is taking a step forward as well. It's a lot of bodies, so there's not probably a high urgency to add bodies to that room right now. But there's also not a lack of potential moves they could make, and I think even now you've got ability to move receivers. Malik Willis has a certain value if you're comfortable moving on from your backup quarterback. I don't know that they are. And then obviously Jair Alexander is a potential trading piece. And now that a lot of DBs are off the board, maybe there's some urgency that increases on him for people to try to get somebody. I don't know. But I think that he's going to be a Packer. If you look at it that way, him in the room, the guys they got, it's a pretty deep room, assuming health, which is a tough thing to assume.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think obviously the focus was on offense, and
Yeah.
it's surprising that they went 3 picks and we don't have a defensive player.
Well, I would say the deepest position in this draft is D-line, and that may be what they're looking at going, look, we still have a lot of guys on this board we can go after tomorrow. They haven't made any trades either, so there's been no maneuvering. I think there's still a lot of potential for stuff to happen, but we'll see. Strap in, guys. It's about to get fun. We're going to cut off here. We're going to make room for the No Huddle guys. They're coming in. They're going to go live here at 11 o'clock. Central, 12 Eastern, and we will be back Monday night, 9:30 Central Time, to break down the whole draft. We're going to get into all of it, break down all the rest of the guys, the moves that they make, and talk more about these 3 that we already have and how they can hopefully improve this offense, man. It really feels like this offense got a shot in the arm. And it sounds like LaFleur is pretty excited about it, which is an exciting thing. So that's good. But hey, if y'all had fun on this live stream with us real quick, hit that like button for us, spike that like button, jump on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel, subscribe there, and hang out for a few minutes. And the No Huddle guys will be going live here shortly. And as always, Packers fans, go Pack.